Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is 8 games to try out if you like Wingspan. This is part of an ongoing series I've been doing. I started with Catan, I went to Ticket to Ride, I'm doing Wingspan now, and who knows what's coming next. In fact, if you want requests, if you want to go ahead and put your requests down below, by all means let me know. But this is 8 games to try out if you like and enjoyed Wingspan. Wingspan from Stonemaier Games is a game of trying to gather a bunch of birds and place them down into your tableau to slowly improve your abilities and options in front of you. Across 8 rounds of play, you're going to get increasingly fewer actions every single round. Is it 8 rounds of play? It's 4 rounds. Across 4 rounds of play, you're going to have 8 actions, 7 actions, 6 actions, then 5 actions, getting fewer and fewer actions because you are building out a better tableau. You're building out a more efficient tableau where you can gather more food, lay more eggs, where you can draw more cards, where you're trying to get as much as possible out of the system to score as many points as possible. It is a well-loved game with over 1 million copies sold, and to that end, if you've enjoyed Wingspan, here are my 8 recommendations of games to try out next. Specifically, in order of what I think is the most accessible to possibly the most complicated, least accessible on this list. Starting off with number 1, which is going to be Cascadia. Cascadia is not going to have the same mechanics as Wingspan, not by a long shot, but if you do enjoy the general nature theme and lightweight aspect of what Wingspan brings to the table, I think Cascadia is another excellent one to try. Again, mechanics are going to be totally different, but in Cascadia, dealing with that nature theme, you're going to be drafting tiles, taking those tiles and the animals on them, and trying to put them into your tableau to go for the variable scoring cards that are going to give you different things that you're trying to strive for every single game. And so you're going to be building out, adding 20 tiles and therefore 20 animals to your tableau, structuring them and combining them as efficiently as possible to be able to score as many points. It is very much a multiplayer solitaire game. You're drafting from a shared pool of tiles, but past that you're kind of doing your own thing, not that differently than Wingspan, where ultimately for the most part what you're doing is your own thing. You're building out your own engine in Wingspan, and you're building out your own set of scoring, tiles, and animals in Cascadia, but if you want a simple, lightweight game with another nature theme that's very different, then I highly recommend Cascadia. Similarly, my number 2 recommendation is going to be Parks. Again, we're not going to the mechanics of Wingspan, we will shortly, but more so in the nature theme of things. Parks is again going to have a lightweight game in which you're very much not engaging in multiplayer solitaire this time, rather you're competing on the same board, blocking each other frequently as you try to get these various cards from these various national parks you're all visiting. Along the way, you're going to be moving along a shared path, you're going to be gathering various resources from that path, constantly fighting for each other, both with positioning in general, who can get there first, and who can get to the right landscapes, as well as who can get the camera and take the various nature shots along the way. There's a lot of things you're juggling in the game, and one of the things I very much appreciate about Parks is it is a game that can be played with a fairly lightweight attitude. You can sit there and you can jump into it, you can have a good time, you can do your own thing while being in each other's way to a degree. Or alternatively, you can jump into Parks and try to be cutthroat about it. You can sit there and tactically try to get in each other's way, to sit there and try to optimize around the best way to ruin other people's good time, which sounds mean. It's a little mean. You could play the game that way, but it's usually not the way people will play that game at first. And so, to me, Parks operates on multiple levels. It is easy to dive in, which is why it's the second game on this list, but it can actually grow a lot in terms of the depth and complexity that the experience offers. For the next picks, we're going to start leaning a lot more into the mechanics of Wingspan, to the way Wingspan operates, starting off with Earth. Earth, which I sadly don't have the table in front of me over here, but Earth is going to be another card, and this one is going to actually have both, by the way. It's going to have the nature theme, but it's also going to have similar mechanics to Wingspan in the sense that the whole entire game is about placing cards down into your tableau. Now, we'll not be leaning as heavily into the constantly stronger actions you are getting in Wingspan. Wingspan just gives you stronger actions every single round, and Earth does so as well, but not as much or as quickly or as often. But you are going for a bunch of shared goals, similar to Wingspan. You are gathering a ton of cards, trying to place them down into your board, and you're going to have a lot more cards option than Wingspan does. You're going to just be flooded with tons of cards and the ability to try to pick and choose which ones work best for your engine. But ultimately, you're playing the cards into a 4x4 grid, which is going to give you a bunch of points both for the cards themselves, sometimes for the positioning on the grid, and sometimes they are augmenting the actions you take. Similar to Wingspan, there's some core actions you take, and some of the cards you place down into your grid are going to expand upon those core actions, making them stronger and stronger. So suddenly when you're doing something, you're doing a little bit more of that thing because you've placed cards down into your tableau. That's going to be a very similar feeling to what's happening in Wingspan, and I would argue that Earth is possibly a bit more accessible than Wingspan in terms of the ease in which you're given things in the game, in terms of the rules set around it. I think it's going to be the most similar to Wingspan from all the games we cover here, and it's one that if you like Wingspan, you should definitely be checking out. Number 4 is going to be Aquatica. and I love Aquatica. Lord knows I love Aquatica. This game over here, this one over here, I do recommend it with the expansion as the best experience, but I still like the base experience as is. But Aquatica is going to be a very different style of placing cards down into your own tableau. You are doing so. You are constantly building out your tableau. But the game is going to revolve more around the hand of cards. All the players are going to have a starting hand of cards, and those cards are going to give you different options for how you gather more cards, for how you gather more characters, for how you score different things. The cards in your hand are going to define your actions. And as you place the cards, you lose them temporarily until you play one of your cards that will give you those cards back. That's one facet of the game. But sometimes you're gathering more of these rolls so you can get more and better abilities and also have a longer time before you have to spend an action drawing everything back to your hand. Meanwhile, you're gathering these various tiles from the board, not tiles, cards from the board, that are slotting into your own board in a very unique way I've never seen done in any other game, but they're kind of going into your own personal player board where they're slowly sliding up, unlocking more bonus actions along the way. To me, Aquatica is so good at giving you those bonus actions between the various, I can't remember what they're called, but the various tokens you're going to have that will flip over, and the manta rays. The manta rays that will flip over, giving you bonus actions, plus the cards that slide up, giving you bonus actions. There's so many ways to optimize around how Aquatica operates. The rule set is very, very simple. The ways you can optimize around the rule set, incredible amount of depth. It leans a little bit into the nature theme, you know, a little bit of nature, a drop of fantasy mixed in with the various roles you have under the sea, but this is very much about a very unique way of building out a card tableau, possibly the most unique one from the ones that are similar to Wingspan, and yet very different at the same time. Next up, we're going to have Raising Robots. Another one I don't have in front of me because this one's just starting to deliver from crowdfunding. But Raising Robots is from Navu Games, and Raising Robots is going to again have 3 rows of cards. Similar to Wingspan, you have 3 rows of cards. Similar to Wingspan, as you play those cards into the rows, you are augmenting and improving the actions of the rows whenever you trigger said row. But it's very different than Wingspan. I would very much argue that Raising Robots is Wingspan Plus. The theme is around robots, not so much around nature, and a lot of the game is about trying to find so many different ways of optimizing your actions, of strengthening your actions, but also a dash of Race for the Galaxies in there, a dash of trying to choose what action is being triggered each round, and having all players trigger that action, but the players who cause that action trigger are getting more of a bonus or more benefits from it. And so you're going to have this degree of trying to figure out, well, what rows do I want to trigger this round? What things do I want to operate? Across 8 rounds of play, there's going to be a halfway point to the middle. This one actually is 8 rounds, but Raising Robots will appeal to the same things you liked about Wingspan, with some of the best art I've seen in a game. The robots are adorable, they're incredible. Highly recommend it from the visual aesthetic of the game alone. But I very much think that it's one worth checking out if you like the tableau style of what Wingspan is doing. Very much Raising Robots kind of takes that formula and has a bunch of things mixed in, adds a bunch to it, and gives you another similar and yet different game. Next up, we have Everdell, a game that I've compared to Wingspan in the past with a dedicated video of why I like Everdell more than Wingspan, which isn't a dig on Wingspan. I like Wingspan a lot, but I love Everdell. This over here is the giant big box collection, but you don't need that, and you should not start with that. You should start with a base game of Everdell. Dive into that, see how the game operates for you, and then see what you want to expand and add to the game. But to me, the tableau of Everdell is so rewarding. It is a game that is tight, but it's a game that is both nature-themed, it's got adorable woodland creatures, and you're going to be gathering these cards, and you're trying to place them into a 15-card tableau. Because that's where your tableau caps out. You can't have more than 15 cards, and at first, across 4 rounds of play, across 4 seasons, you start off being completely unable to play anything. You are playing a card into a tableau, trying to figure out how you can gather the resources you need, and you can't get the resources fast enough. You start the game off and you're like, 15 card limit. I don't need a 15 card limit. Give me a 6 card limit and I'll worry, but I won't be able to build or play enough. But then you start gathering more, and you start triggering the cards you already played, and your tableau starts building up, and the benefits of what you're building starts building up. And they have a fun mechanic where creatures can go into specific dwellings if they match, and so you're trying to seek out and hunt the right creatures that give you extra free plays that hopefully tie into your engine. There's 5 different types of cards that operate in different ways between instant use abilities, between additional worker placement things, because there's a degree of tableau building, but you also have woodland creatures. You're placing workers onto the main board, but adding more worker placement spots where you can go and others can go as well by paying your costs. And so the game is constantly trying to figure out how you can build out the best tableau for you, the one that's going to give you the best resources in game, the best options in game, and ultimately, and most importantly, score the most points at the end of the game. It is visually delightful, it gives you a tableau to work with, it gives you a lot of decisions to make, and the expandability of Everdell is insane. The expandability is completely off the charts as far as just how much it gives you to add to the game once you feel the base game has shown you enough that you're good to go. Next up, at number 7, we're going to have Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars is delightful, and it's very much tableau building, but it's really going to escalate to the next level. I would say that for Cascadia and Parks are going to be, probably a little lighter than Wingspan. Earth is going to be around the same area. Aquatica is also going to be around the same area, but with some different mechanics thrown in. Raising Robots and Everdell, I think, take a notch above in terms of the complexity above Wingspan, but these last two are going to be Terraforming Mars and Ark Nova, and I think those escalate it a drop further. Again, this is a bit of a pathway of, if you like Wingspan, what's a board game journey you can go on that's going to show you similar things that might also appeal to you. And I think Terraforming Mars does have that. Terraforming Mars, to me, again, one of my favorite games, is going to give you just a tableau full of tons of cards, but you're going to be drafting those cards, which is already one of my favorite mechanics. I love drafting cards in games, and I love it when it gives me a tough decision to draft, and Terraforming Mars does that. But the entire time, you're trying to play these cards down into your tableau to improve your options, to give you more one-time benefits, to give you more tags that are useful for certain things you're going to be doing, to give you more ongoing benefits. There's so much going on. You're constantly increasing your production. You play a card, you increase production. You create a card, you increase production. You play a card, you have new actions to take. There's so many things you do in this, but it really comes down to balancing the cost of the cards, the income you have coming in, the way everything molds together and fits together as you build up a strategy that works well around both your starting corporation, but also what you've been building out in the game. If you want a game that doesn't say, hey, build 15 cards, but rather says, hey, go ahead and build 20 or 30 or sometimes 40 cards in the game, trying to find the right combination of events, of ongoing, of actions, of everything that is going to feed into a single coherent strategy that's going to win you the game in this game, about the tableau, about the area control on the center board, about raising all the various elements that are going to help you terraform Mars. I think Terraforming Mars is one of the better games on this table in general. I think it's a fantastic game to try out. If you got a taste of what tableaus and card comboing can do in Wingspan, I think Terraforming Mars will really take that to the next level. And I think arguably the most complex one on the table, a notch above Terraforming Mars in my opinion, is Ark Nova. Now, while I personally prefer Terraforming Mars, Ark Nova, it can't be denied the impact this has had on the board game space and the speed at which this game has been adopted. And it's often compared to Terraforming Mars, but it's also compared to Wingspan. It very much has that card comboing aspect, and it also does deal in that nature theme. In Ark Nova, you are building and managing a zoo. And so you're managing the area of your own personal zoo, gathering various animals, gathering the various habitats those animals are going to go into, building those out on your own personal zoo board, while trying to optimize around the benefits you'll get when you build things on the zoo board, the benefits you get from the various cards you get, trying to invest in various side strategies in order to be able to get as many points as possible as you manage 2 tracks on the board. Your goal is to get your point markers to cross each other on those tracks as you balance different facets of the game. It's going to have very similar systems as Terraforming Mars in terms of the cards, in terms of the tags, in terms of the way you're building out cards that rely on each other and build out on an increasing and better and bigger infrastructure as you play through it. And it's supposedly a fantastic game. I've played this a few times. I need to play it more to see where it goes. I want to try it solo as well, but it is certainly a game that's going to be in the same vein as what Wingspan is doing, with that tableau building, with that degree of just strategic depth to it. If you like Wingspan and you want to see what else is out there, I think Ark Nova might be the last one on this list to try out, but it may well be one that works for you. And that's what we have over here. 8 games that might be worth checking out if you like Wingspan and if you want to see what other games are out there, what else will scratch that board game itch, and what else will give you the feeling of satisfaction of just playing a bunch of cards in a way that comes together to help you win the game. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.